Hi everyone, my name is Mihika Jain and welcome to season 2 of the Decoding with WINFO podcast. This season we have a lot of fun things coming up for you. We're going to be interviewing students, incredible faculty, and trailblazers in the tech industry. We hope you enjoy. Hi everyone, welcome to the season 2 of Decoding with WINFO podcast. Today I'm joined with
Kayla.
And Kayla is going to tell us a little bit more about her efforts in tech consulting and tell us about all the amazing things she's done so far. So Kayla, welcome to the podcast. We're so excited to have you with us today. To start things off, could you tell us a little bit more about your background and where you grew up and what led you to study informatics at the University of Washington?
Awesome. Well, hello everyone. Growing up, I grew up in Seattle, Washington, specifically in the Beacon Hill neighborhood, and I've lived here my whole life. And I went to the local schools, and I've always been a Seattleite. So every time when people ask me at school, like, where are you from? I tell them, like, I'm actually from Seattle, and I believe am a part of, like, the heart of Seattle. I guess what led me to kind of get to the UW and study informatics, I was a freshman direct admit, but before that, I had no idea what I wanted to study in school, and I was never like pressured to like go down any pathway. Shout out to my parents. But I was encouraged by my friend Abby to participate in this program called Girls Who Code. And I participated in this summer immersion program. And because of this program, I realized the importance of technology and that you don't need to go and become a programmer to be in this like technology space. So because of that summer program, I was basically encouraged to learn more about informatics, and that's kind of how I was led here.
Awesome. We know you've had amazing experiences in school and your internships in tech consulting and been involved in a lot of different career paths and exciting projects. Can you tell us a little bit more about your journey so far and what motivated you exactly to pursue your intersection in technology consulting?
Yes. So I've always had like a strong interest and passion about like helping people and just really solving problems, but I really love challenges. When a problem's like brought up, whether it's in my club that I'm a part of, which is WINFO, like securing a room, or in a class project where we need to really focus down on a problem space, I've always gotten the excitement to go after the problem and not like feel scared to take it on, if that makes sense. So I wanted a career pathway that would allow me to always be thinking and problem solving, and that kind of led me to consulting. And I also do think the informatics program really teaches us how to break down problems and work in projects. So I thought, that would translate well with my degree. Also, I do think consulting kind of like opened up a world for me that a lot of like problems need to be solved in ways that, people might not think are, I guess there's not really like what's the word? Like a direct path to like solving problems. So I felt like through like my major, I was able to kind of find that in consulting. Mm-hmm. And yeah, hopefully that makes sense.
Yes, perfect answer. We also know you have a passion for diversity and inclusion in the tech industry. How has this influenced your work or the direction that you've taken so far in your career?
Yeah, so honestly, I feel like my passion for this really translated well, especially like in my internship. So I interned at Accenture this past summer, and I really got a good idea on like the different like problem spaces and the different types of projects or clients that we would be working with. And I feel like because I had this like, I guess, view on like DEI and me serving a part of the diversity committee and just like all these initiatives at the UW, I feel like I brought in, to the table like different perspectives, whether it was, creating documentation that, all people in the meeting can understand, or making the language in like a presentation more accessible. Even like turning on the captions during presentations for people to see. I feel like because of like my informatics background and also like my, I guess, really intentional effort to make a space more inclusive, it really translated well to my career.
So perfect leeway into a little bit more about tech consulting. Kayla, you recently had your experience with Accenture as a consulting summer analyst. Can you walk us through the process of finding that internship and then also the steps that you took to stand out in that competitive application field?
Yeah, so I feel like my, pathway to going into consulting, even though I did mention previously, like it was like meant to be and it kind of laid out like that. But honestly, Accenture was one of the only like big consulting firms I did apply for. And what led me to that was because of WINFO's connection with Accenture. I remember we had a company tour 2 years ago that I attended, and then when I entered like I don't even know, like it was like a big meeting room. I just felt like a sense of like belonging and just like how, everyone really seemed interested in the work they were doing and the clients that they're working with. And I felt like this company really aligned with my values, which is something that I always like put above anything. And because of that, I then like learned more about consulting. And earlier I mentioned how I was always kind of looking for a career where I would be able to be challenged and like solve problems. So then I researched more about Accenture. But I did realize that consulting is kind of like a pathway that you can kind of take all types of skills and backgrounds, and it doesn't mean you need to major in consulting. So because of my informatics background, I was like, okay, like this seems to align. How am I going to prepare myself? So I guess once I got my offer from Accenture, I wanted to see how can I upskill myself. One thing though I realized, and shout out to Cynthia, who was an amazing advisor at the UW, she told me that a lot of the things that I was learning in school or within WINFO kind of already translated to what a career in consulting was like. So that reassured me that I wasn't just jumping into this career path. Another thing I wanted to do was just kind of research what kind of skills did I need. And luckily, I found a class within the consulting program at Foster, and it's called Management 440. And I took this class, and it was really amazing because we actually got to learn about consulting and be paired with a client, a small minority-owned business. And through the 10 weeks of that quarter, we got to really, I guess, get a good idea of what consulting was like. So I do recommend, if you have the opportunity, to take this class at the UW. It really prepared me. Another way that I prepared myself was through the iMentorship program. I was paired with a mentor who was a consultant, and she really helped me navigate, what is there to expect, and how I can like prepare myself. But yeah.
Yeah, awesome. You kind of briefly mentioned on some of the skills that gave you an edge, but if there were any other informatics classes or specific skills that you learned from the informatics curriculum that gave you an edge in tech consulting, could you name a few for us?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I really recommend Management 440. That is open to all majors, which was really exciting. I felt like Info 360 was really helpful because it really taught me how to be an intentional designer, even though I wasn't going to become like a UX designer. Like I mentioned, when you're a consultant, you really need to know how to like paint and tell a story through slides and presentation. So, being able to present the statistics or the financials or even like really important data through slides is so important, and that's what I learned from 360. I also really recommend 380, and I know 360 and 380 are like the core method classes, but I really paid attention in those classes because I felt like it would translate to my future. But I would also say if you're really interested in project management, product management, or any of the managements, like consulting is really a good, I guess, introduction on what it's like to be a part of a project. So I would say like the skills that we learned in 380 related to like Azure DevOps and like, learning about Agile and like sprints and all that, that translates directly to consulting.
What did a typical day in your life look like while you were interning for Accenture?
Yeah, so something that you'll learn in consulting or just speaking to different people in this career is that like the day-to-day can be so different. Some days I would just have meetings from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and that's all I would be doing. I would just be in meetings, absorbing the information, speaking with the client, taking notes. And then some days, I would be able to actually process that information and just spend like the whole day, creating visualizations, creating mock-ups, working on the slide deck. Something that I really liked about the internship program was all the interns were on different projects. So it was kind of fun to kind of hear what other people were doing. And because of that, I felt like I had an opportunity to do a lot of networking and coffee chats with, managing directors or different teams.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's super fast-paced and high pressure. How would you take time to relieve your stress at the end of the day, or maybe handle the pressure of working with different clients in high-pressure situations?
Yeah, so I think your team and building that like strong team relationship is really important. Some days, being as an intern, I was always respected and my team always, took my, I guess like my opinion, even though I was just like the intern.
Mm-hmm.
So that made me feel valued on the team. And because of that, if we needed to take a break in a meeting after like being in meetings all day, that'd be encouraged. Or, sometimes I would invite like my team or like the fellow interns, like, let's go grab some lunch. During the summer in the Seattle office, there's like a snack area, and I would always like ask my friend and be like, hey, like, let's go grab a snack and like take a break. So I feel like taking breaks and advocating for yourself is really encouraged. So that's definitely how I, made sure that I wasn't, becoming burnt out or getting like too exhausted.
Yeah. In your opinion, so with your informatics degree, did you specialize in anything at the iSchool?
Yeah, so technically with my degree, I feel like it started off as me doing HCI, but it honestly became more custom. And the reason why I think I would encourage like going down a custom track is because you get to have an experience with all the different areas, whether it's data science, cybersecurity, even health and well-being. I feel like because I was able to take classes in all the areas, I can go in as a consultant and be like, hey, like, I might not be an expert in, data science, but I did take this class before and I can kind of translate the skills. And I think as a consultant, it's so important to be able to adapt and kind of learn on the spot and also like take all your experiences. So I think, yeah, like I said, like I did start off as HCI, but I did become like more of a custom major.
How did that customized interdisciplinary kind of course lead to the way that you solve problems in your consulting role?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, taking different types of classes, I feel like I was able to adapt well with the project. So for example, this summer, I was on a project on a topic that I had no clue about, which was cloud supply chain. And I remember going in feeling, really nervous and anxious, like, am I even gonna be an asset to the team? Am I even gonna know what to do or help with? In college, I was so used to working on, smaller problems and, things that I would be able to quote unquote solve. But I feel like this summer, what I was able to like navigate through and what I learned from school is that, it's okay to like face the ambiguity, but be okay with like not knowing
Yeah.
what to do. So I took the Excel or like the Python or like the R skills, and I was able to like help my team like create these mock-ups, which I'm not very. I mean, I tell myself that I'm not very a technical person, but when it comes to time, I ended up having to use these skills, right? So I feel like even if you have a topic that you don't like at all, or you don't want to do that in your future, it might come up again.
Yep.
Just like what happened with me, and it can be helpful for your team.
Yeah, awesome. How did you approach building those connections in the tech consulting space or at Accenture? And do you have any tips for others? Kind of how did you network both outside of your internship and at your internship?
Yeah, so I would say within like my 4 years at UW, I really was intentional about the people I wanted to meet and the people that I wanted to surround myself with. I feel like WINFO is to thank. Because of this organization, I was able to have these hands-on and like first-hand experiences working with these companies, especially since we have our annual hackathon, we have all these collabs, especially when I was on the diversity committee. And because of that, I was able to meet these people. Working with Laura as her teaching assistant, she has a huge network of people that she likes to introduce to students. So throughout the years, I kind of built up my credibility, and I was able to kind of meet all these people from all walks of life. And now I can say like I can also connect people like my friends or like classmates with others. So I kind of took that experience from like my experience at UW to Accenture, and I made it an effort to say like, okay, I need to do coffee chats. I want to meet as many people. I want to learn about all the different projects. So I had about like 2 coffee chats a week when I was doing my internship. And I think more than the project that I was a part of, like the coffee chats and networking really helped me establish myself.
Yeah, awesome. Looking ahead, what excites you the most about your career, and how do you see your role evolving in the tech industry?
Yeah, so I think I'm most excited to, be in something where I can like try something new. And like I mentioned many times, like I love to be challenged. And if I'm not challenged, I feel like I'm, not growing. So I'm excited to be placed on more projects that I have like no idea about. I'm excited to meet all these amazing people and like other trailblazers in the industry, especially, more women in tech. And I feel like I'm excited to also like be that person to give advice. Like being an undergrad and like going to internship, I felt like I was, always like reaching out and seeking for that knowledge. But I feel like once I graduate and start work, I am excited to like start being the mentor or like start being the person that like other people can look up to. And yeah, I'm just excited for a new journey.
And you're already doing the first step in being a mentor to all of our viewers and myself included. During your internship, were there any obstacles or challenges that you faced, and how did you kind of mitigate that?
Yeah, so I think one of the main challenges, I mentioned earlier that I was placed on a project that I had no background on. I hadn't even heard about cloud supply chain. I've always heard like about cloud and supply chain, but it never crossed my mind that those 2 areas would come to combine. So one of the biggest challenges that I faced honestly was just like my internal self, like feeling that I wouldn't be like an asset to the team because I didn't know what this area was. So throughout the whole summer, I really navigated the ambiguity of that, but I feel like by the end of the summer, I was able to, have a stronger understanding on this, and I grew more confident in, being able to present in meetings about, cloud supply chain, and also just feel more confident in myself that I would be able to, help out, even though I had like no idea, like I said from the beginning. So I think like the main challenge is just like, navigating ambiguity. And I think that kind of, translates to all aspects of my life and, a lot of feelings that students definitely feel when learning something new.
Yeah, definitely. Great advice about tech consulting. I'm sure it'll be valuable to a lot of people. Now we're going to get into a little bit more about Kayla's non-academic efforts at UW. Kayla, could you talk about your position as Director of Community and Diversity Efforts for WINFO and a little bit more about your experience through that?
Yes. So coming into UW, I always knew that I wanted to give back and just, do something above and beyond the classroom. And, the first thing I did was learn about WINFO, which I'm so glad that I was a part of this organization. And, I applied for the diversity committee and I got into the committee. And within the committee, I, wanted to take action and, really focus on the high school to iSchool efforts that we were focused on. And just a little background on that, that was basically an initiative that we were focused on was to, encourage more high schoolers to learn about informatics and apply to the informatics program as a freshman direct admit. And just kind of get a better idea of what info is because, oftentimes when I was going to these panels or doing these outreach events, a lot of students hadn't even heard what info was. And luckily for me, I learned about it through my cousin when I was applying to UW, but I didn't want, other people to not know what it was. So through the diversity committee, I created this initiative with Vandana, who was a former director, and it was called I Girls Who Code. And we actually wrote like a seed grant for this and received money to fund this collaboration with my former high school. So it felt like a full circle moment. And we got to take these teaching modules that we created called iTech inclusion modules. And these were kind of teaching modules that give like a little snippet on what was taught at the high school. So we created a cybersecurity module, web development module, a design module, and so much more. And we actually brought these modules to iGirls Who Code and like different high schools. So that was like my main like passion and interest, and still now. And then through then I became the director of community efforts. And then the director of diversity efforts. And through my time as like a director for those positions, I really wanted to continue on those efforts in outreach. And so I began by planning, for Fearless, which is our high school online hackathon, and then also Hack for Social Good, which was another like in-person high school hackathon. And I just really love, seeing other high schoolers and students like learn about the major and kind of see what it's like being a student. And because of that drive for me to like support my community and also support other students in like finding their path, it didn't really feel like, a job as the director, but it felt like, I was really doing something to benefit others. So yeah, through my time in those positions for the past 3 years, it was a lot of like outreach, event planning, leadership building, mentoring students, and also like a lot of fun just being able to work with so many stakeholders and meet a lot of people.
Yeah, which is also very applicable to your career. Could you also talk about your experience as a TA for one of the info classes and how you grew both as a mentor and a leader?
Yes, so I've actually been TAing for Info 290, Orientations to Informatics, with Professor Laura Shilcraw, and this is actually my 6th quarter TAing for the same class, and my final quarter, which is really bittersweet. Going in, when I heard about the opportunity to TA, I was really nervous. I was like, wow, I'm gonna be like grading assignments and teaching. Like, are people gonna wanna, listen to me? And that's also something, I felt a lot was, why would people I guess like how would people like, you know, take my advice and all that, especially, you know, sometimes being the same age as the students, right? Or like being in the same classes with them. Like, are they gonna, you know, think any differently? But I think through the being a TA, I realized that I was kind of already teaching and mentoring in like a lot of aspects of my life, whether it was with WINFO or with like helping my friends, or being like an older sister. So when I became a TA, I realized that I was kind of taking all those other experiences and kind of translating it in a different way. So I feel like as a TA, I really, you know, understood one that like there are a lot of students and a lot of students need to be supported in different ways, and I do think that translates well like with group projects. I also learned that it's so important to be organized behind the scenes, and that also translated to my internship, right? You know, being organized also makes sure that like students have a good learning experience. So I feel like more than anything, like I really learned that, you know, what we do behind the scenes to prepare and plan, it really impacts, you know, the experience and the outcome that like students would get. And because I teach like an orientation and informatics class, I feel like it really aligns with like my interest in like supporting students in their journey. And it's been amazing to see, you know, students take this class and like go on in the info journey and like do amazing things. One of like my former students and now friend who's also a TA for this class took the class and reached out to me and was like, hey, like how can I you know, gain these opportunities? And I was like, oh, you should just like you know, apply to be a TA. And so now like we're both TAing together. So it's a lot of just like opening up experiences and opportunities for students.
Yeah, awesome. We're gonna end with your question, with a question about the iMentorship program. You mentioned that you as well were a mentee, and now you are a current student assistant. Can you talk a little bit more about that position and how do you give advice to students and mentees to build strong relationships with their mentors?
Yes, so I have been a part of the iMentorship program since my sophomore year, and I have always been a mentee, but now I'm the assistant for the iMentorship program, and it's really fun to be behind the scenes. Something that I really love is like in the initial process, I was like helping to pair students with their mentor. And it's kind of like matchmaking, you know, you're trying to find, you know, the key interests, like what career aspirations do the students have? Does this mentor, you know, have that same interest? And I really love, you know, seeing these like natural, you know, mentorship relationships, like I guess like blossom. And I guess like, you know, being a mentee to now like assisting in the program, I realized that, you know, mentorship, you know, even though this is a program, is structured, but also a lot of the times I feel like mentorship is very, you know, unstructured, and it comes from, you know, meeting people and continuing conversations. You know, a lot of the time, you know, you can't, in my opinion, you can't just go up to a person and be like, will you be my mentor? I feel like a lot of the times the mentorship forms naturally, just similar to like friendships. But it's just like really amazing to see that there's so many industry professionals and alumni and people out there that want to support students. And like while it is my senior year and my last year assisting in the program, I really hope, you know, to those of you watching that are still in undergrad, like definitely take advantage of the mentorship program. It definitely helped me, you know, navigate my years at UW. And it was just nice to have like a role model to look up to. So I guess when I am graduating and post-grad, I hope to come back as a mentor for the program. And yeah,
awesome. With that, we're concluding our episode here. Thank you so much, Kayla, for coming on to our podcast and giving us a ton of great insights and starting off our season 2. We hope you also had a great time telling us about yourself and kind of reflecting on things that you've done. Thank you so much to everybody listening. We'll see you next time.